that gives us the official start. So we are, on a beautiful March 12th, Tuesday hot topic. As you know, the one thing that we did is we've had a switch here today. So I just want to promote very quickly, and then I'll remind you again at the end. Next week is going to be our deep dive, and that will be with Paul Wolfert. Paul realized and forgot to put it out there on his calendar, or they changed it on him, that he's part of the review board for the tax tribunal for his area. So Paul's going to be with us next week. Keep that in mind. Again, Paul's a guy that's done $20 million in sales and has never picked up the phone to be able to make a phone call. And Jeff Leach is out there. Jeff, you want to can you give him a little testimonial toward that?
I'm sorry, Paul did what? I just got
Paul, in regards to the amount of production he does and how he's done it. Jeff, by the way, is Paul's manager.
He is all YouTube and social media. He does not make phone calls. People call him. People email him. He gets people from all across the country. Like people are moving from California, they call Paul. It's just amazing what he does. And then he gets referrals from all these people once they've moved here.
So there you got it directly from the guy that works with him. So Paul's going to be with us next week. Again, apologies from Paul, myself, that we couldn't make that happen. But with that, we've got a quick presentation from Mr. Ken Taylor. Ken is with Title One and one of our major title partners within our company. And it came up with the aspect of e-closings and e-signings. And when they threw this out to me, I'm going, well, wait a minute, I'm not really all that confident or certain about this myself. So if I don't know really what it is, this is a great subject for us to be able to talk about, for us to be aware, know that the opportunity is out there. And maybe if it's not on your side, you may be involved in a transaction where you do need to know what it is and how it works, what the expectations would be. So with that, Ken Taylor, I turn it over to you, buddy. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Darren, for having me on to be able to do a little education on electronic closings, electronic notaries, maybe even hybrid closings if you hear them. I'm going to play a short little video that kind of gives a little brief explanation of what our world considers e-signings. There's a few different terminologies that go along with them. And then I'll kind of give a little more spiel and answer any questions that you guys do have. So I will get my video rolling.
Ken, it worked earlier for us, but I'm not getting the audio now.
Is it coming through now?
Nope.
It did work for us before.
Yeah. Guys, we were on here at 11:45 and checked it.
We tested. All right. Hold on, let me do this.
There's a little bit there, but no, not coming through.
Not coming through? Yeah, hold on. Try this one more time.
What is an e-closing? I'm sure you've heard the term, and what is it seems like a straightforward question. However, things can quickly become confusing because there is no agreed upon industry definition of an e-closing, so the answer depends on who you ask. It seems obvious that an e-closing refers to a closing that is electronic, but what exactly does that mean? Let's break it down a bit. An e-closing involves using some combination of electronic documents, electronic signatures, electronic notarization, or electronic recording. An e-document or electronic document is a native digital document as opposed to a scanned image of a paper document. An e-signature is a process used to apply a signature to an electronic document in place of a wet ink signature. An e-notarization is a process of applying the notary's electronic signature and notarial seal to an electronic document. And lastly, e-recording is the process of recording the electronic document in the county records in its original form. This is different than the electronic recording that exists in many areas today, which simply involves uploading a scanned image of a paper document. The ability to perform, and for First American to ensure a transaction using one or a combination of electronic processes, is dictated by federal and state regulations and our underwriting guidelines. Today, e-documents, e-signatures, in-person e-notarization, and e-recording are legal in many states. Remote online web camera notarization is a different story and is only legal in a handful. Find out where your state or area stands on e-closing by checking First American's e-closing insurability matrix before participating in any e-closing. And the next time someone asks, "What's an e-closing?" you can tell them it's a closing where the parties sign some or all documents using an electronic method.
All right. So electronic closings really started back in about 2007 and 8. They did try to really push electronic closings back then before, the housing market crashed. And obviously once that happened, technology shifted a different way. They weren't putting much effort into it. But ever since then, they had been telling us it's coming. Electronic signatures are coming, electronic notaries. And probably the only good thing that came out of the pandemic is that they really did push a lot of the laws through to have that ability for electronic closings and e-notary closings to happen. It's still not very widespread, and I'm not going to stand here and say that, in 10 years, this is going to be the only way that closings do happen. But I will say that it is going to become an option that especially those younger generation home buyers and sellers will ask for, and what you kind of need to be prepared for. And hopefully that, all of your partners are ready for. So with e-closings, there are a couple major factors that have to be true in order to handle them. The first one is your title company underwriter needs to insure them. The top 5 in the state of Michigan all do insure e-closing, so that's not a problem. The second is, does the county that the property is in allow electronic signatures or electronic notaries to be recorded? State of Michigan is pretty good. In all 83 counties, I would say upwards of at least 55 have that ability, but you still always have to check. You get into those kind of up north counties, you're gonna run into a little bit of maybe they don't allow those quite yet. And the last one is the lender okay with electronic signings? And that kind of goes not only for if your buyer is signing electronically, but also if your seller is, because for most transactions, the warranty deed the seller signs is a part of that bank's resale package. And they do kind of dictate to us a little bit if a deed can be electronically signed and notarized or not. So what probably, the conversation I think that needs to be had now, and Title I is fully versed in it. I think in 2023, we did about 60 to 75 e-closings. And we've already kind of started off at a feverish pace this year. But, are the partners that you're working with ready for it? If you're working with Title I, then we're fully ready for electronic closings. But are your lending partners ready for it? If you're working with a different title company, do they have platforms that are set up? State of Michigan has about 10 to 12 companies that are approved for electronic notary with the state of Michigan. And what's their process like, and how to make it as seamless as possible for your consumer and your customer, because at the end of it, that's their final closing, and you want them to have as good of an experience as if they were at a closing table with your agent. I will say, lenders are still pretty slow to come around to fully electronic closings. But what a good thing that they are doing is moving at least into that hybrid closing market, where your buyer gets a bulk of their closing documents the morning of their closing to electronically sign. And it just leaves a very small closing package left at the closing table for them to execute with ink signature. And that'll probably take more of the market share going forward until, technology does eventually take over. But, this process is coming. I got asked the other day to do a buyer with a mortgage closing because he was in California and he wanted to do electronically. Well, unfortunately, that lender didn't allow it, but it's going to start popping up and people are going to start asking for it. So it's something to just start getting prepared for. I'm going to open up the questions here in a minute, but I'm going to send Darren. I got a flyer that if you could, fan out to everybody, kind of gives a little more explanation. But the technology is kind of popping up. And so it would just to be prepared, make sure that the partners that you work with are prepared so that you and your customer can still have the smooth process that that you're used to being in person, but just know that certain things are popping up with electronic closings. They're coming on in there.
So Ken, it sounds like one of the things that we're used to that an electronic closing could replace would be when we would normally do a remote closing.
Correct. Yeah, we have found, especially in areas, especially in out of state or out of country areas, typically if you're out of the country, you have to get an American notary, which usually is an American consulate or the embassy, to go for their electronic closings. You can handle, and they don't have to go anywhere different. As long as they have a strong internet connection and can get online, we can handle it there. But again, if we're doing that seller out of state closings, you just need to make sure that if that buyer has a lender, that they're okay with an electronic closing, because that deed is a part of their resale package, and that kind of dictates a little bit on that. We do always check with the lender just to make sure everyone's on board. But yes, it has really helped with flexibility and promoting another option for your sellers if they're out of state, traveling, that we can handle and accommodate, give them another avenue, to put you guys, ahead of maybe another agent that only has limited options. You can say, hey, we did one last year where seller was a truck driver. He didn't get off the road, it seemed like, for 24 hours, but he made it at a truck stop one day. He did it on his phone. So
Wow.
it kind of all worked out. It was a little unique. I've never signed someone at a truck stop over a phone, but it worked out. So we have it gives you a lot more flexibility.
Have you seen other scenarios where somebody wanted to do an e-closing versus showing up live?
The biggest request we get is on cash transactions. A lot of investor purchasers, they're used to doing a lot of, DocuSign or, Authentic Signature. We get a lot of requests for that. They're busy. If they don't want to be bothered coming in, and it's a quick setup with the title company where we apply signatures to our documents, ship them out to the customer, they sign them and come back. They never have to leave, their site or wherever they're at. But I think where we've seen so far the biggest use of it is in another option for helping out if a seller's out of state, out of the country. Obviously, that's where the value is right now, but I can see it becoming not the way that it's going to be 100%, but there's going to be a good chunk of people, especially in the next 10 years with those, those younger buyers coming up that,
Yep.
Hey, they're going to want, I need another option. I'm used to this, so just to have ready that'll be there.
So one quick question came up here. Actually, there's a couple here for us. Is this the same as remote online notarization?
Yes. So that is the term that they use when a notary applies their signature online. So that's what the terminology that has been given to them. So yeah, that's
It,
when there's an online notarization, they call it RON.
so then with that, Ken, really leads right into the next question of how can a notary actually validate the identity of the person who is not there physically?
Yep. We partner with DocuSign is our company that we use for all our electronic signatures, and they go through an ID check process to get into the virtual closing room. It's kind of, if you were going to log into a secure website, how, you might get a question like, which one of these cars did you own? List a bunch of cars. Did you ever live at this address? They pull public information data, answer those questions, and they also make you take a picture of your ID to send to the notary ahead of time. So it's the same, the requirements for a notary in person is valid driver's license or ID. We get that same identification in a virtual closing. It's just done, a few questions answered online, a picture of the document sent to us that we save in our file to have as a comparison when we get into the virtual closing room with the parties.
And if I'm right, they actually have to be on camera, right?
Correct. It's a record. It's just like almost like a Zoom meeting. It is a recorded closing that gets stored with our closing partner for eternity. It's stored in their cloud system for if we ever need it. But yes, we record the whole transaction. So us speaking, we walk them through the whole closing. Instead of watching them physically sign, you're watching them apply a signature. Is the difference.
Makes sense. So Lydia's got one here where she's got a client in Uruguay.
Yep. Can do it. Like I said, she'd have to have obviously an internet connection that would sustain a video and a microphone call. But as long as, if there is a lender involved, if, I'm assuming it's a seller, but if the buyer has a lender involved, as long as they say, yeah, we don't care about the deed, you're good to go. Yeah, we can set it up as long as at that point, the challenging part is what time are me and Uruguay awake? And you just got to kind of work that out. We have done a few late night closings because of time change differences, but if that's what's going to be best for your customer, that's what we will do. But yeah, definitely I think so far the list is France. I know we've done England. I know we've done stuff in South America. So we've kind of gone all over the world. But it's just, if they have that capability, we can do it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, guys, I'm out of questions on here. Has anybody else got any questions? Whoever the iPhone is, you may ask. John, e-gift, right?
Yeah.
It'll be an e-gift, or we go, hey. But
I will say we have had requests, and it is a capability of having you included in the closing. You're just a non-signing party, so you're kind of just you're just on the camera watching.
Kenyana, you got a question for us there?
I'm sorry, is my hand up? No, I don't.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. Let me try to put it down.
That's all right. You got your 5 seconds of wonderful promotion now. Let's see. If one of the parties is using a fake ID, would the recorded closing be used as evidence?
Yes, we would treat that signing and all those documents, all that is, recorded so it can be used. If it's a fake ID, we haven't run into a fake ID situation. We have run into a situation where a person recently got married, changed their ID, and they were running into fail identification processes with the DocuSign. So, it does give us that level of protection. And then once we got down to the reason as to why, we coordinated with our DocuSign partner and we were able to get them in the closing. But, if it's a fake ID and they're answering questions wrong, it won't let you into the closing if something feels suspicious. it'll give us a warning, then that we will then reach out to the customer, figure out what's going on, figure out why. If it's something as simple as I just changed my ID, that's why it's not pulling up right. We have other solutions for that. But yes, anything, if something goes wrong, everything's recorded. If we ever got subpoenaed, they would ask for the, document closing. We just ship it out to whoever it needed.
So in the end, then it sounds like if we feel that we need to use this or it's been requested, are we in a state where it can be done? Michigan is obviously.
Yep.
Is the buyer or seller wherever they're at? That also would have to be approved. Also, is that correct?
No, it really just matters as for us. As long as me, the
Okay.
notary, is in Michigan, is in the boundaries of Michigan. I could be up in the UP doing it somewhere, doesn't matter. But I'm a licensed notary in Michigan, so I just have to be in Michigan. But the buyer, seller, wherever they can be, if we got internet to the moon, we could do it up there. But
So if
I
we've
just
got
have
the internet.
Yeah.
We've got the internet and a notary. Then it's really just on the mortgage company if one is involved.
Correct. Yep. Like I said,
And then, yeah, also the county also, right? Because they've got to
Correct.
accept the recording.
yeah. And like I said, the county, every day we get a little report, this county is now accepting electronically this, that, it's headed that way. But obviously you get up to those, up north counties, where the recorder works every other Tuesday from 10 to 2. Yeah, it's coming a little bit slower than normal. But, for where the bulk of our area is, in our Metro Detroit and kind of the little counties just surrounding that, they accept electronic everything. So, we don't have to worry about that.
Fantastic. Sounds great. Well then, Ken, thank you for your time today. I'll tell you guys, when we talk about hot topics, literally I got with Ken and Nancy yesterday with this and said, hey, are you guys ready to go to where we could do something? And this one came out. So when we talk about hot topics, it is one where it came about yesterday. Let me again remind you for next week, Paul Wolfert's going to be with us. That's going to be video and social media marketing and how to be able to use that to your advantage using a actively passive technique. And then if you've been hungry for some live education and training, know that toward the end of the month at our new Livonia location, we are going to be doing a one-day back to basics listing fundamental course. That'll go from 9 until 4, hosted at our Livonia location. And that will be on, I believe it's March 27th. I'm pulling it off top of this head, but it should be around there. Jeff, maybe you can give that verification for me if you're still on. But know that those are the two things that are coming up. And guys, we'll see you next week. Go out. It's warm weather outside. Let's knock on some doors, and you know what to do. Go talk to people. You got it. Thanks, buddy. We'll see y'all.
Hey, Ken, are the documents shared on the screen as you're explaining them to the people, and then they're actually doing the actual authenticing on their laptop?
Yep.
Or
Correct. Yep. We see the closing papers. They see the same closing papers that we do, but yeah, they're all on screen, so you can present it just like a normal closing.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. That was my only question. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Have a great one.
Have a good one, everybody.